this section on sequences, I was going to make part of my speech on rhythm last week, and so I put it off here, and I realized that it was a good idea because it allowed me, and especially going through the entire 48 allowed me to make this sort of generalized statement about how we really need to address these sequences, and how now that I'm going through the entire 48, I'm not just reading the notes and discerning them and figuring out which ones to play at what time. I'm actually looking at these like we're in the Matrix or something. I'm actually looking at these as gestures and translating them into, physical acts, the arc of a particular motive or phrase, and so that we're actually looking at them now in terms of blocks or mechanisms. This actually reminds me of my dream that I think actually this course is sort of the fruition of. I had a dream many years ago of I was teaching a Bach masterclass, but this particular Bach masterclass I was to play as well as teach, and it was at a famous Bach museum. And so I was supposed to teach the sonata in C major, and there is no sonata in C major. But I eventually looked around and found out that there is a trio sonata in C major, and so I actually made a transcription of it because I felt I had been instructed to. The other part of the dream, and I still remember this, literally decades later, I remember this dream. The other part of the dream that I remember is that I was taken in this Bach museum to a special exhibit, and it was a row, as you would see in a historical museum, of these various devices. They all looked like the inner workings of music boxes, and each one apparently was a machine that described or approximated a particular harmonic mechanism within a work of Bach. So they were showing me basically the machine that represented, a particular change to the Neapolitan or what have you. But I like to think that dream was instructive, and in saying that yes, there are ways that we can translate these scores in a way that is immediately absorbable by us, and a way that we can make this our own by virtue of how we interact with the score, how we take these notations and make sense of them, try and find the words that Bach is trying to tell us behind the music that he's saying. It's quite clear at many times when he is quoting, for instance, a moment from one of his cantatas or one of his masses. This would be a matter of great interest. If I were a little bit more diligent, I would probably come up with some of that arcana. But he does on occasion quote himself, as well as quoting other composers. But yes, this idea of Bach's music as a discernible and learnable language is, I guess, still a dream of mine. The other teacher that I had great experience with at New England Conservatory years ago was Leonard Schur. And of course, I never studied with Leonard, but he always had my undying admiration because he studied with Arthur Schnabel, who I always considered, the real authority particularly on works of Beethoven, Brahms, Schubert, what have you, the German repertoire. Leonard really had that same kind of definitive knowledge of the intent, I felt, behind the musical gestures in the best of the German repertoire. If you wanted an answer about how you should play every note of a Beethoven, Schubert, or Brahms sonata, Leonard knew it and lived it. I'm coming to feel more and more like we are working closer to a working musical vocabulary wherein we recognize Bach's gestures and textures as words and phrases in a secret language. I believe the more we can establish just such a familiarity with the composer's text and context, the more we can then place that text within the context of Bach's music as being essentially pure music, not at base necessarily tied to a particular orchestration. The more we glean from his music for other instruments, in this case most importantly the violin, the richer our vocabulary back in our own pianistic arena. We should never lose our sense of reverence and awe, inspired and humbled at the sight of Bach on the page. We are not seeking to compartmentalize or dissect Bach's great work into cold gesture. We aren't trying to make these decisions randomly or capriciously. We seek instead to recognize patterns discernible over a range of Bach's work as will have practicable applications to our own work. It is through my own repeated examination in traversal of the whole 48 that I've come to appreciate, particularly in my work with virtual harpsichords, how much clarity can be conveyed if we take the care to assure no two voices imitate their duet partner in exact terms of each their articulative plan. With the lyric spirit as inspiration, we can create a range of possible connectivity, from close connections between notes to the more decisive and declamatory, always aware of the spaces between the notes, the glue that connects them, even remotely the dark matter that carries the DNA of each note's direction to the inevitable expiration of air at the slur's end, those infinitely varietal German consonants and elisions. I thank you very, very much for your kind attention today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.